welcome to my first pre-modern video on the channel. This is going to be a full guide to the blue-green Madness deck. In the video, we're going to cover a budget deck and a more competitive survival Madness build, and we'll look at two different matches, one match played in paper and one played on Magic the Gathering online. We're going to go over the full deck tech, sideboard guides, and what makes the deck so fun to play. Okay, and with that, we're going to start looking at the deck techs and then watch the matches. If you want to skip right to seeing this deck being played, you can click the links in the description below. The Madness deck at its core is a creature deck. It wants to play creatures for cheap with their Madness ability. So this ability activates when the card is discarded. You can then cast it onto the battlefield for a reduced cost. So Arrogant Worm, for instance, only costs 3 mana, or the Rootwalla is free to cast if it's discarded. Of course, then you need ways to discard these creatures from your hands, so you'll always see Frantic Searches, Careful Studies in this deck to do just that. Wild Mongrel, of course, was a very powerful card when it was printed, and it's going to be the main or one of the biggest threats you're going to have in this deck. So you can see you could discard cards to it to make it stronger, and many times you'll be able to attack and win with a giant Wild Mongrel. So taking a look at the budget version of Madness, and here is a deck that I made in paper. I think this might have been only $35 or $40 in the United States to make. It's definitely a really fun and cheap way to get into Premodern. Here, Circular Logic is used, as is Daze, to protect your Wild Mongrel and your other creatures. Deep Analysis allows you to draw cards, and if you do winds up in your graveyard from casting it or discarding it, you could play it again for its flashback cost. Same thing with Roar of the Worm. It doesn't have a Madness ability, but you can discard it and then play it from the graveyard. This deck has 3 Wanders, which is probably a little bit much, but again, this is a great creature that has an ability when it's in your graveyard that all your other creatures have flying. So you could have a 6/6 Roar of the Worm flying in for the win on the attack. In a budget version of this deck, I also like personally running Curse Scroll. Since you're able to discard down usually the 1 or 0 cards, you can then activate Curse Scroll's ability every time to clear the board and take out creatures, or to do damage directly to the player. Merfolk Looter and Aquamoeba are other excellent card choices in a budget version of Madness that you could use to discard cards. And one final note here on Frantic Search is that it thankfully works exactly as you would like. You're able to pay 3 mana, draw your cards, and then untap and use your discard step to activate the Madness ability. So, of course, the best use of Frantic Search is to discard Arrogant Worm, you untap your lands, and then cast it out on that same turn. Now let's shift over and look at what a competitive Madness deck would look like. So here again, you'll see the Rootwallas are still there, ours are the Careful Studies, we still have Dazes, Wild Mongrel, we're running 4, and 3 Arrogant Worms. But for a competitive deck, we need a lot more power to keep up with other decks in the format, and that's where Survival of the Fittest comes in. So an enchantment, you could activate its ability for just 1 green mana, you could discard a creature card from your hand, triggering a Madness ability, and then actually search for another creature. Now for this, even though we're not running red, Squee will come into our deck here, and this is basically allow us every single turn to bring Squee back to our hand and then discard it again to Survival of the Fittest to find another creature. You could make a chain. If you put this card out and have 3 green open, you could go and grab a Rootwalla, discard it, grab another Rootwalla, discard it, grab another one to flood the board with your creatures and to go wide if your opponent has, say, 1 large creature in the way. Circular Logic is a little bit too hard to get online sometimes in the format, so here I bring in 2 counter spells and take out the Circular Logics. Waterfront Bouncer is actually extremely good. Oftentimes if you're playing, say, an opponent that is using Goblin Welder in a Tinker deck, you could continue to bounce the Welder to their hand over and over again and prevent them from getting that ability online and happening. Or if your opponent's low on mana, you can make them recast a creature every turn. Gilded Drake is a big star here as well, especially when you're playing against Stifle Knot decks. Again, if your opponent puts out the Dreadnought, then you can Gilded Drake next turn and take the Dreadnought from them. This card is pricey on Magic Online and certainly in paper, but it's definitely needed given how strong Stifle Knot is in the format. Other forms of Counterspell in this version will be a foil, which you can discard an island and another card from your hand to counter target spell. This is great again with a card like Squee, which you could bring back, or of course any of the other creatures with Madness. 2 Gushes also give you access to additional card drawing, which is definitely needed if you feel like you're falling behind, or maybe you just need more cards because you want a careful study next turn. Finally, note here that all of the cards that had the flashback ability have been removed. They're just a little too slow for a competitive level, and of course they can hit with graveyard removal, which you do see quite often in the meta. In the sideboard, you're absolutely going to have at least 4 naturalizes. Again, one of the most common cards that's going to be brought in against you playing this deck is going to be Cursed Totem, and this of course shuts down your Root Wallet and your Wild Mongrel, and it's really crippling. You need to be able to remove enchantments and artifacts from your opponent's board. Hydroblast and Blue Blast are needed given the prevalence of a Goblin deck or a mono-red burn deck. Finally, I'm running cards like Rushing River, which I just find sometimes is needed for, say, removing a Tangle Wire on your opponent's M-step. Then you could untap next turn and come in for a big attack, and they really won't be expecting that. Or you could just return, say, a Mastercore to your opponent's hand, so you have another turn with a clear board. A Null is the same thing. There's just a lot of artifacts and enchantments out there that could be an issue, including things like Plague Engineers, and oftentimes you find a Null coming in right away off the sideboard. Now, before we watch some matches, I'm just going to cover cards that you're going to see sideboarded in against you constantly when you play this deck. Cursed Totem was mentioned previously, and this basically says any creature abilities that require activation cannot be used, so you can't buff your Root Wallet, for instance. It really hurts a lot of your creatures. Many decks are going to be running Phyrexian Furnace, again, to remove your Squeeze, and especially your Squeeze and other targets from your graveyard. If you're playing a mono black deck, you might see Dystopia. I've run into this once in the match, and just this really hurt a lot. Other cards that are really tough for creature decks include Standstill and Oath of Druids. You might just have to play into that oath, and a lot of times it's a real tough one to get around, again, unless you have that enchantment removal. Now you can see a little bit why the enchantment removal is so important. And with that said, let's watch some matches. So the first match, again, is the budget deck that was played in a webcam game. And then finally, look at the competitive deck on Magic the Gathering Online. Again, you could click a link in the description to skip to either one of those. Please enjoy. All right, we'll jump into the match. Mono red on top and Madness on the bottom. Turn 1, Cursed Scroll. Okay, 3 mana to tap it. You name a card, and if your opponent picks that card from your hand, you 2 damage to creature or player. Of course, if you have 1 card in hand, it just automatically does the 2 damage every turn. Plenty of games have been won on late game Cursed Scrolls. Madness, it's a good start to get both your colors up. Going to hit with an Incinerate though. 3 damage. So the red player is just going to want to do as much damage as possible as quickly as possible. It's going to be a race. Okay, could see Aquamoeba with 3 mana. Oh, we're going to get bolted. A bolt instead. And another Incinerate. That's exactly how Mono Red wants to play. Now, Madness really wants to get the needs. I mean, the whole deck is discarding, so has to have something here. It's gonna be a frantic search, draw 2, and discard 2. Gonna get a lightning bolt in response there. I'm tapping 3 lands as well. discarding the Arrogant Worm and paying 3 for its madness. It's basically a perfect use of Frantic Search. The 4/4 Trampler on the board. Of course, Mono Red's got plenty of outs for that. You know, a Cursed Scroll and a Lightning Bolt would do it. A Ball Lightning would also do it. Definitely run into situations playing against Mono Red where late in the game you almost have to leave creatures untapped in case there's a Ball Lightning. The threat of the Ball Lightning is significant. Okay, another land coming out. And Roar of the Worm. I personally love playing in this card, especially in the more budget variant of Madness. Flashback is just super fun. Be able to cast a 6/6 token from your graveyard. So red is just within striking distance of just winning. Kind of could even win with the Cursed Scrolls. Here comes the 6. Here's a Wild Mongrel. Again, a card you really want to get out early if you're playing Madness. Okay, it's going to be an end-step Cursed Scroll. Okay, like... Okay. Could just win on the Cursed Scroll. It looks like a Roar of the Worm that was discarded to Wild Mongrel at the end step there, potentially to try to cast it. There you go. It's probably still going to be too late. Discarding a land and a wander, so it's a 4/4 coming in plus a 6, it's 10. That's not going to be enough. So the Madness player will go down to 1, turn will pass, Cursed Scroll will be played again, and that's the game. That was close. I mean, Madness had started a little bit quicker. It would have won that game. The slow start, though, was not able to get those worms out quick enough. Here we go to game 2. So it's a careful study from the Madness deck to start off the game here. Draw 2 cards and discard 2. Wanderer's back in the graveyard. And so that means, so Wanderer's in the graveyard, all your creatures gain flying. Definitely a card you want to be discarding. If you're hard casting Wander, or Wonder, I should say, you're not in a good spot. And here comes a Mog Fanatic. Again, a lot of options there, especially when you combine it with a Lightning Bolt or a Shock. That's a good early Wild Mongrel. Okay, red just passing turn. Let's see. Okay, we could 3 mana puts a lot on the board for. Okay, hard casting. That's definitely a mistake because you could just discard the Brute Walla to the Mongrel and then cast it for 0. But the 0 Madness cost, of course, very fun with Basking Root Walla. Is played in every Madness deck, this card, pretty much. You get an Incinerate in response. And then late in the game, when you just don't have anything to cast, you just put all the mana into Root Walla. So it's quite a good, versatile card for different points of the match. Vortex coming out, and the video just briefly skips there. The turn was land card and then cast the worm from the graveyard. But the Vortex, beginning of each player's upkeeps, deals 2 damage to that player, so it's basically a copper tablet, but does 2 instead of 1. And again, for burn decks, that's going to be helpful. Just get your opponent as low as possible and try to take them out. Let's see if that's on the mongrel. Of course, you could discard here to save the mongrel, right? But boost it and buff it above the lightning bolt. That will not be happening. And the worm coming in on the attack. That is a 6/6. We're going to get a Fire Blast, so sacrifice 2 mountains and deal 4 damage to any creature. So I'm guessing we're also going to get a Lightning Bolt. And we will. So the mountains were tapped, then sacrificed to Fire Blast, then the Fire Lightning Bolt. So that's a lot of firepower, but that does take off the creature threat, and Madness not showing any other ways to discard. Of course, can always draw into them. We'll have to see if there's any. Okay. Deep Analysis. Target player draws 2 cards, and this has flashback. 3 life and 2 mana. You can use it again from the graveyard. So that's very good there. If Madness kind of stalling out after that big Fire Blast, a good deep analysis. I know some of the more competitive Madness decks don't run this card. Again, I just like it. I like flashback and getting to use it twice. Situations like this where you just have nothing and card draw is always good. Now the red player is lower in life, so that Vortex will be an issue. Oh, and there's a great Curse Scroll. It doesn't have the mana to activate it, but one card in hand could draw that land card. He's going to want to get that online quick. And there's another worm in the graveyard, another 6/6 trample. A careful study, some big moves here. Let's see if you get discard a Root Walla, would be nice. And there it is. And I think the red deck's in trouble. I mean, Fire Blast obviously is just a key card there, but losing the 2 mountains can be a big downside depending on when it's played. Okay, and there is a 3rd land for Curse Scroll. And let's see, is he gonna... Okay, he's gonna go fetch. Okay, so the mountain was fetched. And we're just gonna get the Curse Scroll right away. That's another land card. So... obviously Root Walla could have been pumped up a couple times, 3 times next turn, so I guess that makes sense, and that's going to be it, yeah. The Madness deck gets going here. It's a lot of fun to play. If you're just thinking about getting into Premodern, it's definitely a cheap way to start to learn the format. You get to draw cards, discard, play big creatures, and it's surprisingly good. So Circular Logic, and it looked like the worm was also discarded off that turn 1 careful study. No turn 1 Vortex. Let's see. Oh, and there's finally we get the Aquamua. Discard a card from your hand, and instead of a 1/3, it becomes a 3/1 creature. It's just really in the deck for the discarding. Finally, we get to see a Grim Lavamancer. It's a 1/1. could tap it to remove 2 cards from your graveyard and deal 2 damage to any target. Again, great, really key card that can combo, you know, with Lightning Bolt and do 5 damage, take out some big creatures. There's a Frantic Search. So let's see if we get... Yep, Arrogant Worm being discarded, so that will be cast when the land's untap. Okay, we sort of land card there. Yeah, just such a fun use of Frantic Search. Arrogant Worm is in, 4/4 Trampler. Of course, a Fire Blast could take it out. As could Grim Lavamancer and the Bolt. Incinerate. We are going to get the Fire Blast early. Now, that's tough. I guess that just, do you have nothing else in hand? He's going to use the mana from the mountains and Grim Lavamancer, the player. And there is Curse Scroll from Madness. Again, personally, I like playing Curse Scroll in this deck. I might have mentioned it in the deck tech because you can always discard down to 1 very easily. And then use Curse Scroll. And here we're going to get a 3 damage coming in. And Curse Scroll taking out Grim Lavamancer. Alright, red's gonna have to... Okay, we got again 3 mountains online, got a Ball Lightning. You have a lot of cards, just getting a pass. Okay. Putting out a Wild Mongrel, cannot Curse Scroll this turn. But again, this is getting a little scary for red. Bolt. Two Lightning Bolts in a row. That's how you do it in top deck Mod Fanatic. Okay, maybe I take that back. Maybe red can gain some momentum here. Dealing with threats pretty easily. Do you hit Mog Fanatic here with this? Hard casting the Rootwalla. Playing the Curse Scroll and passing. Man, red. I mean, I feel like the red deck here is just a couple top decks away from winning. Another Aquamoeba. So now it's drawing into some creatures, and that's going to be countered. Okay, coming in for just 1. Nothing. Another. I don't know if I've ever seen 2 Rootwallas hard casted back to back, and taking 2 total damage. Playing out the land card, the Centaur Garden, I believe, meaning they're not going to be able to Curse Scroll. Okay, if these root wallas aren't dealt with. Oh, and there it is. Top decking the ball lightning. Yeah, now if you block with the root walla, that is going to have something going up to 4. I guess that keeps them out of bolt range. I mean, now you get in a situation where if your opponent here top decks a ball lightning, you lose, right? Unless you keep root walla back and pump it, because you take 3 then. So you kind of get in a pickle here, and you push your odds against them top decking ball lightning. Oh, I guess you could curse scroll the ball lightning. Grim Lavamancer. Okay. Revealing a careful study there to the curse scroll. Careful study again. I mean, you could try to get drawing to like a circular logic, or even well, no, days when it wouldn't necessarily work. To try to counter any bolts that come at you. Okay, there's a worm in the graveyard. Mog Fanatic coming back out. And this is preventing the curse scrolls from hitting the play. I mean, the curse scrolls are being used to take out the red creatures, so it does feel a little desperate by red, but again, who knows if they have a bolt in hand to get another bolt they can win. Ooh. Okay, so using circular logic on the Fanatic, okay. Okay, I'm guessing. Okay, you hold back Curse Scroll for Ball Lightning here. I mean, again, it's tough if red just. Okay, oh, an island. Okay, could double pump the Root Walla. Oh, it's not going to, or use the Curse Scroll. Oh, and they did have a bolt in hand to go to 1. So that the blocking of the Ball Lightning. Oh, and 2 mountains. So the blocking of the Ball Lightning with that Root Walla saved Madness a game. So yeah, in games like whenever you're playing red, you always have to think like, if you go down to 3, if you go down to 4, you're in Fire Blast range. If you go down to 3, you get bolted, lightning bolted. So that was a clutch block. And look, the Budget Madness deck again, super fun to play, can win games. And it's fun to cast a giant worm from your graveyard. And let's shift here and look at a competitive version of the Madness deck here. The Talking Head is back, and we're switching over to Magic Online. So this opening hand, you're seeing turn 2 Wild Mongrel, and then you have your Squee all ready to go to be able to buff the Mongrel once per turn. So that's pretty enticing. If we draw into an island, we hit foil. We could pitch the Genesis, so pretty a decent opening. Here comes the Wild Mongrel. And we draw another Squee, so this is actually quite good. So here you see where Squee, it wasn't in the last video, the power Squee here to buff a Wild Mongrel every single turn. And, well, there goes that plan, but we can discard Squee twice here. At least we'll gain more life from the Swords to Plowshare. The exile does matter there because Genesis cannot pull back the Mild Mongrel. And here, taking the extra squeeze, just be careful there with the Black Vice. Get back down to 4 cards though. That's a Treetop Village coming in, so looking like some type of control deck here. Wants to, probably is running Tangle Wire and then hit us with their Treetop Villages. Pumping the Root Wall there and dropping a second one, so just hard casting Root Walla, which is always an option. Now they can't activate Treetop Village because they don't have another green, so they are looking very vulnerable. Top decking a Careful Study, a dead card for now. We do draw that island. We'll be able to Careful Study and discard those 2 squeeze, so draw 2 cards. Let's see what they got. Horn of Greed. Whenever a player plays a land, player draws a card, dropping another Treetop Village. And that is a perfect top deck, right? So you're going to island, you're going to draw a land on Horn of Greed. Your other squee, definitely going to Careful Study here. Ooh. Arrogant Worm. And there we do have 3 mana open, so you're probably just going to drop this for its madness cost. Alright, this is just putting the pressure on. So next turn, those Root Wallas can each be buffed, plus the Arrogant Worm. Keeping this island in hand for the foil, and of course Squee, another, many ways to use Squee in this deck. And this is, yep, and there's your Tangle Wire. Turn too late, because we didn't have the foil last turn. Because we didn't have the island. I need to learn how to cancel this Genesis trigger thing, because every turn I say no to it. Maybe that's the only way to play it. Here, in response to porting, we could actually just buff our Root Walla, because that ability lasts till end of turn, so it doesn't matter if you do it during the upkeep. So, nothing to do here but attack again. Like we said, Madness is a creature deck, and so attack with all your creatures. I don't think there's much they can... I don't think is there any way out for them? I don't think so. Yeah, and there you go. So just playing too many creatures for them to take care of. So we know they're playing Tangle Wire. They definitely have other enchantments they're going to play. A Null is one of my favorite ways to deal with that for just 1 blue, countering artifact or enchantment. Now, how many Nulls versus Naturalizes do you take, right? Like, maybe just take 2 of each. Probably going to want to take out, yeah, Gilded Drake. Gilded Drake, they didn't really show us any big creatures. It's kind of useless. My guess is they're gonna attack with Mishra Factory and the Treetop Village, and that's it. So opening hand, yeah, oof. Okay, I like this. So turn 1 daze. Oh, and there's Phyrexian Furnace. So one of the cards that's always going to be sideboarded in against you if you're playing Madness. So remove the... You could sacrifice it to remove a target card from graveyard, or just take the bottom card out every turn. So this is a good way for them to get rid of Squeeze. Exploration coming down. And yeah, so here comes the land attack. Not too menacing early on. We just want to take our time here and develop. Survive. Ooh, that's a big Naturalize off the top. So here's going to pass. I've learned it's bad to just drop survival of the fittest here because it just the odds of it getting removed. If, next turn we could put down the coast, then the survival, then play survival and activate it at least once. That is better than just dropping it and passing turn. Now, do you naturalize this? I don't think so. I think it's too early. I think you go for the furnace because we know we're going to be shipping off Squee to the survival next turn. Okay, there goes Squee. Now, this is interesting, again, the strategy of going for a Wild Mongrel and then buffing it, going for Arrogant Worm to drop the 4/4. So here, though, I think the Rootwalla play is better, given, again, they are going to be defending with land cards. Like, we want to just go really wide, especially if they hit us with a Tangle Wire. The more creatures we have out, we'll still be able to get through an attack. And here's a Horn of Greed. So I think next turn, you're going to have two... Yeah, let's just deny them any card draw because we're developing with Survival of the Fittest. So next turn you could get a couple Rootwallas out. And a foil, that's pretty good. Here comes just the power, Survival of the Fittest. And go ahead and grab another one. Drop another Rootwalla. Fetch another one. Pretty good spot here. Foil now. Again, we just want to... The more turns we get to use survival, the higher chance we're going to win. So... Just want to kind of protect survival. Getting another island, so now we could drop the second island and we could gush if we need to. Let's go ahead and Rootwalla out. Probably want, yeah, so since they do have a factory up to block, which is what they're looking to do here, we're going to go ahead and put Wonder into our graveyard, so our creatures are flying and the factory doesn't matter. Now that we have 3 Rootwallas out, again, we could now next turn drop a 4/4 trampling with flying Arrogant Worm to really start putting on pressure. Might as well put out Waterfront. And Waterfront Bouncer here, not really a big card. But in many other matchups it is. And oh, and here comes the Tangle Wire, and we perfectly have foil yet again with a Squee. Yeah, Waterfront Bouncer, though, just so important in other games. Being able to return the Dreadnought, for instance, to your opponent's hand. Okay, we're going to play Arrogant Worm. Maybe pull out probably the last Rootwalla. Is that what you go for here? Or another Worm. Okay. I think here, again, maybe if your opponent has a Wrath of God, we could still drop a Worm next turn, and then the Rootwalla. Yeah. So even when we get board wiped here, we can go right back into the same attack with the Rootwalla and the Arrogant Worm. I don't know how you get out of this one. Yeah. Thank you for watching, everyone. I hope that was helpful, especially if you're a new player looking at playing the Madness deck. In the description, again, I'll have additional decks and information that you could read about this deck archetype. If there's anything I missed, please leave a comment below or let me know what you think. And if you liked the video, please subscribe for more.